Bonjour, my name is David DeVere. I'm a wine educator and traveler, and you're watching Savvy Nomad TV, the Eau de Vie edition. This is day 19 of 24. We're opening tiny little bottles of wine. Let's get to it. Day 19. It is down here in the corner. Can you see that? Down there in the corner. Ta-da! Ooh, silver cap. Probably going to be white. Probably a screw cap. It is, and oh, I was wrong. It's a rosé. A ring rosé wine from Italy. Okay. When you buy a rosé, you often don't know what the grape variety is. It can be any red grape. I know it's pink wine, and you're thinking, I thought that was a white that they added food coloring to. No, it's not. It's a red. Here's the wine. And rosés, well, the word rosé means pink in French. I suppose that's where the English word rose comes from. I don't really know, but the way you make a wine is you harvest the grapes, you pick them, you bring them into the winery, you sort them. Sometimes they get destemmed by a destemmer, which is a thing that's got a bunch of rubbery fingers that plucks all the grapes off. Everything here is getting mashed and mushed and totally broken up. The idea that you would stand in a barrel and crush grapes is kind of an old idea. They still do that in some places in Portugal, but nobody really does that anymore. So everything's getting mushed up, and really the grapes, when they're coming in from the field, are squishing themselves also. In some really fine, high-end, quality winemaking regions, they'll hand-pick those clusters and carefully place them. But in a lot of them, they're mechanically harvested. There's a thing that goes on either side of the grapevines and shakes them, and they all fall into a bucket, and they all move up on a conveyor belt, and then that gets dumped into something else, that gets dumped into something else. It comes into the winery. Then the juice, if it's a white wine, is removed from the skins and the stems most often, and then you are going through fermentation, maturation, and then bottling. Now, red wines have a little bit of a different path. They come into the winery, they get all squished and mushed, and then they go into a fermentation vessel. And there they sit and they ferment. And that temperature of fermentation is surprisingly low, can be in the 70 degrees or so. And winemakers are very careful to keep this temperature just right. Anyway, as that ferments, the skins that are in that juice, which is called a must at this point, they rise to the top, and they kind of get this thing which is called a cap. And every so often, they need to punch down the cap. Now, some smart winemakers have automated this. They put a pipe at the bottom, and they pump over juice from the bottom over on top of the cap, and it soaks through. The reason I'm talking about this is because the extraction period, the time that it takes to extract color from the skins, that will give you color for the wine. So the more the extraction period, the longer that goes, the thicker the skins, the more color that gets extracted, and you get nice dark red wine, or you get a ruby wine. Or if you do it only for a short amount of time, you get pink wine. This is pink wine. So you've got a red grape that goes into fermentation and is only in skin contact for, let's say, less than 24 hours. And it depends on the variety that they use. They could use Grenache, they could use Pinot Noir, they could use Cabernet Sauvignon, they could use Syrah. There's a lot of options. Who knows? This could be Montepulciano di Abruzzo. We don't know. The bottle doesn't say, because people think rosé fits in its own category, and it does, but rosé is really a production method, not a grape style. White wine, red wine, and rosé. Those are all production methods for turning grapes into wine. So that's what we get here, rosé. I don't know where it's from or what it's going to taste like. The only hint on the bottle, well, I know it's from Italy, but I don't know where in Italy. The only hint on the bottle is 11% alcohol. A little low. Is there going to be a touch of sweetness in here? Possibly. Okay. This is going to be a dry style rosé. It's not going to be sweet like a white Zinfandel. Let's crack into this and see what they've actually sent us. My tasting card, I filled out the top. If you need a tasting card, link in the description to the free PDF on my website. Okay. Rosé. Before I open it, I do want to talk just very briefly about style and temperature. Rosés from the classic ones are from Provence. They're called Provençal rosés. They're really inexpensive. Like, I don't want you spending more than $10 or so-ish on a Provençal rosé. There are some celebrity rosés that they want you to spend more on, but those people, they don't really need the extra money. The rosés aren't going to be that much better. $10 summertime wine for lunch. And in this category, you can just chill it down as much as you want. You could pull it out of the fridge. That would be fine. You can drink it. This is 58 degrees. You can drink it all the way up. But starting with a cold rosé on a hot day, oh, incredibly, incredibly refreshing. And in the south of France, where it's hot and it's dusty, and you have lunch from 12:30 to 2:30, starting with a big salad, like I've seen these salads are freaking massive. You've got almost a pound of cheese. You need a bottle of rosé to go with that. So you can drink this a lot colder than I'm going to, 58, but you can drink it a little bit warmer to try to get the fruit character. These are dry, light, easy drinking wines. Don't think about them too much. Well, except today when you do this with me. Rosés should be purchased, they should be purchased as young as possible. Aged rosé, no thanks. I want it from last year. Okay, looking at my colors here, this is very pretty. I've got, it's almost an orangey salmon, and it's medium in color. It's darker in color than I thought. Look at that. Isn't that, that's just lovely. Very nice. I suppose one way you could also make a rosé is you start with a white wine and you add a little bit of red to it. You can blend up a rosé. Okay, let's see what we smell here. I'm looking for strawberries, fresh fruit, maybe a little bit of cut grass, some herbs, that kind of thing. Well, I get tangerine straight off. It's citrusy. There might be a little bit of apricot, maybe a little touch of nuts. Slightly nutty. Okay, so citrus, tangerine. I think it smells nice. I'm going to give it an 8 for aroma. No, I'm going to give it a 9 for aroma. Holiday season and all. Okay, let's taste it. Dry or sweet? It's dry. It has a medium full body. And the acidity is smooth. Personally, I like and expect rosés to have higher, crisper acidity. They should be not quite tart. We're not talking Sauvignon Blanc tart, but it should be higher, crisper acidity. This is a little bit bland in its acidity. In my acidity chart here, I've got 4 to 3, obviously tart and sour, or lacking acid, flat. I think it's a little flat. 4. Balance. Balance is fair, primarily because the acid isn't there. So pulls the balance down 2. There is a tiny tinge of acid on the finish. I'll give it a 5. Complexity. Rosés generally are not overly complex. When you find one that is overly complex or complex at all, it's amazing. This is watery. Is it disappointing? Is it bland? No pronounced flavors. Just a few flavors, 3. Finish and length. Actually, the length of the finish is quite long. It's longer than I would imagine. Despite these poor scores in the middle, the finish is not so bad. It's a good finish. I'm actually going to give the finish a 7. I think the acidity actually shows up mostly in the finish instead of the attack. That first initial impression is called attack. The acidity is kind of showing up more in the finish than it does in the initial impression. Okay, I'm going to go do my math. Okay, here are my final scores for our Italian Rosé Ring Rosato. Aroma 9, acidity 4, balance 5, complexity 3, finish and length 7, 28 points. Add that to 50, 78 points. Now, as I was doing this, I thought, my little brain said, hey, haven't we had a rosé already out of the box, or was that last year? And turned back to my tasting notes and looked, yes, indeed. We had Pinky Truce, Rosato from Puglia on the 9th. I scored that 74 points. So this is 4 points better. 10 days ago. I wonder what I said about it. I probably talked about White Zinfandel. Rosé wines are a favorite of mine. I don't generally drink them in the summertime. I mean, in the wintertime, I drink them in the summertime because, oh, that's when they're so refreshing and glorious. And maybe this light style, this watery style is what I like in the summer. But now it's cold. It just snowed yesterday. It's wintry, and I'm looking for deep, hearty red wines. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this episode, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing. I'll be back tomorrow for day number 20. Until then, I say a tutelare and cheers.
Hello. That is a really pink rosé. Almost pinky orange. It smells like Welch's grape juice, which is not bad. Well, dang it. Now I wish it was a summer day so we could have our outside picnic lunch. Yum is what I have to say about that. Cheers.